Hey, I hope you're having a fantastic day. My name is Dan, and welcome to the Mobile Artist Cafe. In this video, I will share a time-lapse study of the process that I use to create the 2D characters for the Mobile Artist Cafe. It really takes a series of trial and error to get things the way that you want. You have to mold it and work it to get just the right look you're looking for.
Let's get this party started!
The first character up is Grandpa David, the lion. Now, initially when I started drawing him, I started out with a grumpy old man, knowing that I wanted it to look more like a lion. So I copied the face to another layer and started trying out different hairstyles. I tried adding like the little chin hair that the lion has. I would just take the hair and have him balding in the middle of his mane and just have hair on the sides. Then I went through one of my reference books on cartooning and I found a character that had the basic pose that I wanted to use. So the next thing I did was just put that on a different layer and use it as a reference as I started drawing Grandpa David's body. And then I went through the inking process with Grandpa David, and on a lot of the lines, I would actually overshoot the line. When you're trying to draw very short lines from one point to another, your hand can wobble a lot and that will show. But if you just draw a quick stroke, then it comes out a lot straighter and a lot cleaner. Next on the list was Sparkle Love Cookie, the happy hippo. This character, I wanted to be kind of like a 1950s type of hairstyle on her, maybe with a little on the top and the sides, but it wasn't working the way I wanted it to. And then I tried doing more of a bouffant hairstyle, but what I realized was the reason it wasn't working was there was too much detail, so I simplified it. After simplifying the head and the face, then I realized, okay, I know exactly what type of body I want on this character. And a lot of times with the bodies, what I would tend to do is try to hear how the character would sound in my head, and based on what they would sound like is how I drew how I thought they would look. Next on the list is Jimmy Fray, the skunky Brit. Now, originally, it was not working at all. I knew I wanted him to have a little bit of a British look to him, but it just was not coming out the way I wanted it to. Like the third or fourth drawing, it was starting to look like Huckleberry Hound, which is a old, I think, Hanna-Barbera cartoon character, and I was like, that simply is not going to work. So I started working with a pompadour hairstyle, and then once I got that close to what I needed, it gave me the look I wanted. Then I started to develop the body. I wanted to go with sneakers at first, but I thought sneakers and a leather jacket is just not going to work, not for retro type characters, so I ended up using boots instead. I'd have to say one of my favorite characters to work on was probably Nacho Wawa. In creating Nacho, I was trying hard to hear what he would sound like in my head, because the way he sounded, once again, would determine how he looked. But unfortunately, a lot of the initial drawings, he looked more like a mouse than a chihuahua because, you know, he has the big head and the big ears. But as I kept working it, when I got about to the fifth or sixth drawing, I was like, you know what? You need to just like take several of these that you've already done and just lay them out across the page. So I took like 4 different heads, laid them out across the page, and then I would start working each head with a different set of eyes for each head, a different set of noses and mouths, and then just see how those noses and mouths and eyes and ears would look across each head type. Then I narrowed those down to 4, and then I got to one that I thought was perfect for the Nacho Wawa character. The body initially was a little too tall because I wanted his body to be almost less than the size of his head. And I knew I wanted the head to kind of jut forward. After working it for a little bit, he came out just like I wanted him to. Next on the list was Otto Splasher. Otto is an otter, and the first couple of drawings of him, I knew I was going for a beach dude kind of look, but it just was not working at first, and I had to keep working it because the initial head was too square. I knew I needed to round it more because otters tend to have a very round head. And I started to shrink the muzzle part of the character because otters usually have a very small muzzle. But when I shrank it more, it wasn't over exaggerated like I wanted it to be for a retro cartoon. So I had to go back and redo it. And after I got those 3 characters done, then I went back and started working on the inking process to finish them up. I still would overshoot my lines when I'm drawing the characters. I would go on to different layers and do the different parts so that when I overshoot the lines and I'd have to go back and erase the overshoot, it wouldn't interrupt something else. Like if I was overshooting on the arms, I could erase the overshoot on that arm layer without affecting the body layer behind it. The cafe was a bit hard at first because I wanted it to have a very retro look, which meant you have opposing straight edges working with curves, and the initial design just was not working. And what I ended up doing was taking the building, trying to place a coffee cup on one end and the cafe sign on the other end, but they just kept working against each other. So I ended up putting the cafe on the left-hand side, putting the big arc and the high-rise part of the building on the right-hand side, and then it just kind of magically all fell into place.
Well, that's all for this time, and I hope you found something you can use. If so, go out, create something awesome, and share it with the world to help make it a better place. On behalf of myself and the gang here at the cafe, thank you for stopping by. Be sure to subscribe to the channel and check back each week to stay up to date with our latest information. And don't forget to leave any comments or questions in the details below. And you have a fantastic day.